Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Email Marketing Tools to Thrive This Holiday Season. Hopefully the recent snow has everyone's minds shifted to the holidays. And this webinar is a partnership between the City of Westminster Westy Rise Initiative and the North Metro SBDC. So we're so happy to have you all with us. We want to give a special shout out and a thank you to our partners in the Westminster Economic Development Department that have made this webinar possible. That's Shelby Wood and Stephanie Treller. So before introducing our speaker today, I want to go over just a few housekeeping details. We will be recording the session and we'll send out an email with a link to the video so you can have access to the material later. We also welcome your questions, so please type those into the questions tab at any time throughout the presentation, and we will get to them during our Q&A time at the end. I will say if your questions are very specific to your situation, we encourage you to make an appointment with one of our consultants to dive deeper into those specifics. And I will put a link to our scheduling page on our website here in the chat. So I'm Hannah Curtis. I'm a coordinator with the North Metro SBDC, and I'm so happy to introduce to you our presenter today, Megan Bortner. Megan is the co-founder and lead strategist with Labyrinth Digital, as well as a lead marketing consultant with us here at the SBDC. So Megan, we're so thankful to have your marketing expertise today, and I will turn it over to you now to get into the great content you've prepared for us.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. In terms of content that we're going to cover today, we'll start and talk a little bit about why email marketing, then we'll jump into talking through different types of email campaigns. We'll spend some time on email best practices. I know we're here at the end of October, so we have some content about holiday planning and how to have a successful holiday season using the email channel. And then we'll finish up by talking about email metrics and making sure we're measuring success, as well as list health and recommended email platforms to consider if you're just getting started. Cool. So first, we'll jump in and talk through why email marketing. So email marketing, unlike most digital marketing channels out there, is actually free. That it has no advertising cost behind it, no cost to work with for like say PR. That it's just you or the person that you're paying for to create the campaign, and then you're able to communicate with your subscribers. Also, email is a channel that works really, really well. Unlike most other digital marketing channels, you have the ability to have a one-to-one relationship with your customers, and you're absolutely sure your content reaches your customers. Thirdly, email is a channel that customers sign up for, that they're willingly giving you their email address and asking to hear from you, so that you already have that permission. Fourth, email is really great for testing. That the different email platforms have really great abilities to test messaging content, to test subject lines, to test even offers, and you can use that as a learning ground and use it in your other digital marketing campaigns. And finally, capturing an email address is really, really valuable for your marketing program. That the email address is a unique identifier, and it can be used across other marketing platforms like Facebook and Google, that you can upload it there and help you for finding new customers on those platforms as well. So types of email campaigns. So when I like to think about email campaigns, there's three main kinds that I think about. One is newsletters, and newsletters are those campaigns that are like your sales, your product launches. And the reason that they're really important for an email program is it keeps your brand top of mind with a customer. So these are those campaigns that you see on those weekly, monthly, or even daily basis from brands that you have signed up for their programs. The second type of communication and part of an email program is your lifecycle campaigns. So these are campaigns that are there to really churn the water, and they're really relevant to a customer's life cycle. So campaigns that fall in this category are things like welcome, re-engagement, and abandoned cart. And they're all very related to a specific action that a customer took or a place where they're at in their life cycle. And the third type of email communication is transactional emails. So those are things like a receipt or your shipping notification. And those, the beauty of those, someone doesn't have to be subscribed to your email newsletter list. That anybody that makes a purchase or takes an action can receive those types of communications. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about the customer life cycle and thinking about communications that go with the customer life cycle. So one thing I often hear from email marketing is that those newsletters take a lot of time and that you're always doing them, that whether your cadence is weekly or monthly or even daily, somebody's always there putting together that content and sending it out. So if you really invest in your life cycle communications, those are communications that you build one time and you set them up right, and they're always there, and you don't have to be building them all the time. So this is a really good starting point when you're building your email program. So when you're thinking about the customer life cycle, there's usually a point where the customer signs up for communications and they're trying to learn more about your brand while they're deciding if they want to make a conversion. So you want to have communications that are there to help them educate about who your brand is and really encourage them to drive to conversion. So common communications that are in this part of the life cycle will be like your welcome touches. Often you'll see abandoned cart or abandoned browse when someone's doing something on your website, and then you follow up with some type of communication there. The next bucket of key triggers to build out is the customer that's loyal and really engaged with your brand. So you want communications in place here to keep your brand still top of mind, but to incentivize them to buy again or incentivize them to have a referral or just to really keep them happy and engaged with it. So often communications you see that fall in these type of buckets are like reorder, that could be surprise and delight, just a gift showing customer appreciation. Birthday communications fall in here, and sometimes even asking for a referral. And then the third area of email communications is when a customer is getting towards the end of their life cycle, that they've stopped engaging with their emails or they've stopped purchasing in the frequency that you want. You want some type of communication to throw them back into that loyal customer state. So often as a consumer, you might see those communications that say, we miss you, come back, here's some type of offer. The goal there is to get them to stay engaged with the brand because you're starting to see signs that they're less interested in what you have to say. All right, so I thought a good place to start was just the email anatomy. So starting from the top, there's elements of the email that the whole goal is to get the open. So that includes the from line, the subject line, and the preview text. And that's what you see when you go into, say, your Gmail without even clicking. Those are elements of email. And this can really serve even if someone doesn't even open your campaign. Just getting your from line out there is almost brand awareness for you that you've made it into the inbox. The second section of the email is the headline and the preview pane. So that is content that comes up without even having to scroll. So this is really important to get your key message there, as well as some type of clickable content, because some people just look at a tiny bit and not scroll through the content. You want to make sure there's some key element at the top. Below that, there's elements that support your key message. That's secondary to support it. It could be some type of module there. And then the email concludes with some type of footer and legal section. So letting subscribers know how that they got your contact information and why they're being mailed, as well as any legal requirements if there's, say, some type of offer in your campaign. So thinking about getting the open. So there's three key parts to that. One is the from line, two is the subject line, and three is the preview pane. Or preview text. So in the from line, that's always your brand, and it's really important to keep this consistent, with the exception of really key events. So sometimes like Black Friday, or maybe it's just the most important information. Sometimes you'll see brands almost adjust their from line, like you see with Artis, they say holiday sale. You can do that as a tactic to help you really stand out, but it's important that you keep your from line consistent and the name of your business in there. But sometimes to elevate it, you can add a little bit of a cue so subscribers know what type of content is in there. In getting the open, it's really important that the from line, the subject line, and the preview text all work together to have that consistent message. So within that subject line, it's trying to capture a compelling hook, giving a customer or subscriber some type of reason to open your campaign, and then you'll want the preview text to go with it. One thing I'll say about both subject line and preview text, there's no golden rule that for every brand it's different. So this is a really good place to always be testing. So whether that's testing little elements like, should you include emojis in your subject line? Should you use all caps for some of the words? The more you test into it, the more you'll learn what resonates with your audience and what's most likely to get that open from your campaign. So I wanted to talk a little bit about an email template design. So best practices from within the template is to have your brand logo somewhere at the top, as well as some type of navigation bar at the top of the content. The reason you want both of these elements at the top of your campaign is this captures click activity, that it's something clear someone can click on, even if they don't read the rest of your content. The second part of the email template is the hero module, and this is where you want your most important information to be. And it's also really important to have some type of clear call to action button in this hero so that you're capturing clicks and getting someone to take the ultimate action that you want from them. Most emails have secondary and sometimes even tertiary content to support what the hero is. So that could be like best-selling blog, best-selling products that you have, reviews, any information that's going to support the hero, you'll want to include in secondary and tertiary modules. And then the final element of the email template is including that footer communication. So there's legal. Sometimes if you have a social presence, that type of information will be found at the very bottom, called the footer section. All right, so thinking about email best practices, content's really important for email. So my recommendation is to sit down and do your content on either an annual or a quarterly basis. The reason that this is really important is it helps, you can pick a theme and it helps your content build on each other, as well as sometimes creative can take a while to turn around. So if you want to promote something for Black Friday or with winter in mind, maybe you don't have any winter type of imagery. If you start planning it in October, it gives you that time to have the assets you need for the communications. Another thing that's really important when you're thinking about your email marketing program is just as you're planning that content in a couple of months ahead of time, really think about a variety of content as well. That the most healthy programs are ones that have a balance between promotional activity, as well as maybe product launches, reviews, user-generated content. It keeps your program interesting, and it gives a reason for your subscribers to continue to open the campaigns and engage with what you're providing. Another content best practice tip around the email channel is, as you're planning your content, think about email and the communication that you're going to have, but also think about how can you use that content in other places. So this example here was about a barbecue set, and they had an email campaign about it. They had social advertisements supporting it, as well as a blog post that had the whole story. So sometimes you build maybe one big focus, but then in whatever is appropriate for channels, you take like bite-sized pieces of it, but that really helps your content grow more legs. And content can be time-consuming, but if you're thinking about how can you use it across different platforms? It's going to go a lot further and be a lot more efficient. And if you go through that quarterly or yearly planning type of session, it really helps you really think through all the different channels there too. In terms of email, one thing that helps email design be a little bit more efficient is the use of banners within emails. So banners, for example, could be like, where's the closest store driving traffic into it, or it could be some type of content that's at the bottom of every type of campaign that has maybe all your different products. And if you design these once, most email platforms have some type of way to save templates, and you can just plug those in every single time, and that's going to help building your campaigns go a lot faster, as well as that helps keep your campaign have a consistent look and feel. Another thing, I say this is email almost the next level, but email has really great abilities for tracking, and it also has really great abilities to personalize the customer's experience. So in the example here on the right, it's from Sony, and last year at Black Friday, they'd featured a lot of different products, and they'd already started thinking about it, that a customer would have the ability to click on any of these products, and what you clicked on, you would get some type of follow-up campaign with more information about the product that you have. So as you're designing campaigns, and maybe it's with Black Friday and Cyber Monday in mind, thinking through what are they going to click on and what do I want to follow up with based on that could be really impactful. And as you're really thinking through how do you take your program to the next level, you can start analyzing what are those products or what is that content that customers click on over and over again, and that could help inform what you want to include in newsletters going forward. And then just wanted to leave you guys with best-in-class newsletter example. This is from Press Juicery. What they do is a really good job of is keeping a consistent look across all their different types of campaigns. You can see their top navigation bars within all the campaigns. They started using some of those banner content, so it has that more local content as well as the efficiency behind it. And then they also do a really good job of having a lot of different types of subject lines. You can see that here on the bottom, that sometimes they'll include emojis, sometimes they'll include subject lines that have the actual discount in it. So that's just trying a lot of different tactics within the channel. All right, so I'll jump from talking email about best practices to talking a little bit about the holidays that now we are at the end of October. I'm sure it's top of mind for everybody. So just wanted to start with a little bit of research. So year after year, the trend is that holiday shoppers start shopping before Thanksgiving. They say 60% of people say that they're going to do that. And the people that start early actually tend to have bigger shopping basket sizes. So what that means for us as the businesses is start thinking about your Black Friday, your Cyber Monday, your holiday promotions early. And you often see that within the email channel that you'll see people have doorbusters. Maybe they drop a week or two before Thanksgiving because they know people have already started thinking about their holiday shopping. And then the vast majority of people do continue shopping. Just because you haven't started emailing now, it's not too late. But the vast majority of people do shop into mid-December when they're when they're buying for holiday season. The other trend I wanted to share with everybody is just the trend that shopping for holidays has started to move online. And this started a long time ago, that every year you can see, even before COVID, that the percent of consumer shopping online has continued to increase. Of course, it's higher with younger generations than older generations, but the trend is overall, the trend continues to grow. And everyone's anticipating this year with COVID in mind that online shopping will increase another 25 to 35% this year, just because stores have such more restrictions in place. So what that means for you as businesses, if you haven't started thinking about what your digital strategy for online is, definitely make sure that's a piece of it, since that's where customers are going to be shopping this year. So how do you win in the email channel with holidays in mind? So we talked about it briefly, but start promoting the holidays early. So whether that means your Black Friday sale starts a few days before Black Friday, or you have sneak peeks within early November to start building up the hype for that type of holiday. People are shopping for the holidays before even Thanksgiving and Black Friday. Secondly, the email space is really crowded in November and December. That Black Friday is the #1 day for email marketing communication, followed by Cyber Monday. And the whole season as a whole, there's a lot more email campaigns. So to make sure your brand stays top of mind, consider increasing your newsletter cadence so that you are getting that brand awareness just from making it into the inbox. And then finally, we'll talk a little bit about key automations and having them in place. So what we're looking at here is just the November and December calendar. So if you haven't started putting communications in place, when I start thinking about a holiday strategy, think about both November and December holistically and map out those communications. Definitely, I recommend putting on some of those key dates like Black Friday, the Saturday after, Small Business Saturday, Cyber Monday. Flag those on your calendar so that you make sure you're not missing them and that you're having some type of communication in place for those type of key events. And then secondly, like I mentioned, think about increasing your cadence during this time, just because it is such a busy time for email communications. So there's a lot of different types of communications that you can send from a newsletter perspective during this time. You can know what's the last date someone could order something and make sure that they get it in time for Christmas. You can do gifting type of guides. Once maybe they missed that date, there's things like don't forget about your gift card. And then another tactic that can be really impactful within email marketing, not just in the holiday season, is using some type of countdown timer, which adds urgency. So if you have a sale that only lasts for a day or a week, using that countdown timer to help people take action. And then finally, in the beginning, we talked a little bit about some of those automations. So automations can be really, really good revenue generating campaigns because they're associated with a direct behavior someone takes. So whether that's abandoning their cart and leaving something, if you don't have email automations in place, like the abandoned cart and abandoned browse, make sure they're up and running and that they're working. And if you do, that's great. What I do see some brands do with the holidays in mind is they'll redo those abandoned cart and abandoned browse campaigns that have a festive feel. And if there's some key type of information, like maybe this year we know that so much is online and things are slow, maybe there's information that like shipping is slower than normal, make sure you buy now to make sure your product's there before Christmas. So these can be refreshed definitely with that holiday in mind. All right, so we'll jump into talking about measuring email success. So there's a lot of different metrics you can look at to know how effective your email campaigns are, but just to pick a few, one that's really important is open rate. So that is the number of people who open your email divided by the number of people who received your email. The reason this metric is important is it helps you know how much engagement how much interest your audience has from your brand, as well as you see a big spike downward. That could mean maybe your email campaigns are getting flagged by spam and you're actually not making it into the promotion tab anymore. So keeping an eye that your open rate's pretty consistent over time just helps you monitor the health of your email program. The second metric that's really important is click rate. So that's the number of people who clicked your email divided by the number of people who received it. This metric tells you if your content is actually engaging for the customer. Is your subscriber taking the action that you wanted them to? So if that says shop now, are they actually clicking that and going to their website? If that rate is consistent and good, that means your content's resonating. If you're seeing it drop a lot, that's an indication that you're not sending the right content to your subscribers. Another important metric to watch is deliverability and spam issues, especially going into holiday season, that email services like Gmail and Yahoo start getting a little bit more stringent because there's so much email there. So if people start marking you as spam, your emails may not end up in the promotion tab anymore. They may end up in the spam folder, so then people won't receive your message. So just keep track of how many spam complaints you're getting and what the deliverability is of your campaigns. And then finally, if you are selling some type of product, just keeping track of revenue and number of orders placed just helps you with bottom line and forecasting type of information. And then just wanted to show you guys what some sample reporting looks like. This is out of the email platform Klaviyo, but most platforms have similar type of metrics that you can look for in here. You can see there's that open rate, the click rate, the orders placed, unsubscribed, spam complaints. It's all in one place. Pretty easy to check. I'd recommend looking at it after every send to make sure those metrics continue to be healthy. All right, so we'll talk a little bit about email list health. So this is really important because if your list isn't healthy, people stop engaging, and then no one will start hearing from your communications, and you can also get fines. So the tips in terms of list health is never buy a list. That you want your subscribers to actually tell you they want to hear from you. You can get in a lot of trouble if you buy a list and then send it off. You can be marked as a spammy sender, and then pretty soon no one will be hearing from you. To keep your list healthy on that note, make sure you have some type of consistent email communication. I'd recommend between 2 and 3 emails per month just to make sure your reputation is good and your subscribers are used to hearing from you. I've seen some businesses where they'll email a lot during the holiday season, and then they almost forget that they have a program, and they'll go almost another year before they email, and then you'll get a lot of spam complaints and deliverability issues. So the way to make sure that doesn't happen is to make sure you're emailing consistently through the entire year. On that note, also make sure you're keeping your list clean. So sometimes someone might have signed up and they're maybe thinking about purchasing from you, and then something happens and they stopped, they never purchased, and they never opened another email from your communication. Definitely put in communications, those re-engagement in place that are asking, hey, do you still want to hear from us? And then if they don't say they still want to hear from you, don't be afraid to unsubscribe those people that they're almost dead weight and they're going to hurt your email KPIs. So just make sure you're consistently doing some type of re-engagement to keep that list healthy. And then finally, kind of going back to don't buy a list, make sure everyone you're sending has actually given you permission. If you don't, there's a risk that not only would your emails end up in the spam box, but you can also get fines if you're emailing people that haven't explicitly told you that they want to hear from you. And then just a question that we often get is, how do you get people on your list? So your website can be a really good place. So often at the bottom of websites, people have sign up for the email list. If you really want to grow that email program, sometimes you see brands do some type of pop-ups. These can be really good for getting people to join your list. Another way to get an email addresses is to make sure you're requiring at purchase, and you can also you'll get the email address, but I'll caution everyone that unless they've said yes, they want to hear from marketing communications, you can only send them transactional campaigns. Thirdly, you can advertise on social media with the goal of getting people to join your email list. And then there can be offline methods as well. So perhaps you have a retail store, you can ask for people at checkout if they want to join your list. Awesome. So I want to just talk about some of the recommended email platforms for small businesses. So the email platform that you select depends on what type of business that you are. So if you're a business that sells primarily to businesses, so like you're an accountant or a lawyer, using something like HubSpot can be really, really good. HubSpot has free version as well as it has the ability to set up a lot of very one-to-one communications. And then it also can do some of the more campaign type of communications from it. If you're on B2C, meaning you sell products and your end user is a consumer, platforms that can be really good, especially if you're small and have very small budget, is MailChimp. I think MailChimp is free for the first 2,000 email addresses on it. And as you start to become a little bit more sophisticated, there's a platform called Klaviyo out there that has a lot, it's not too much more expensive than MailChimp, but it has a lot more automation of features and a lot more ability to do more personalized targeting. I will caveat on MailChimp that if you are on Shopify, if you're an e-commerce client, the Shopify and MailChimp integration is very tricky, that there needs to be some workarounds, so that may dictate the platform that you choose. And then finally, if you're a nonprofit, Constant Contact has good rates for a nonprofit, so that could be a good email platform for you to choose. And then just around all of these platforms, they're all really user-friendly, and they have a lot of training material built within their platforms to help you if you're still getting up to the game on email communications. All of these platforms make testing really, really easy, which is so important for getting your content right, your subject line right. All of these platforms integrate with a lot of other technologies that are out there, which is great. And then even on the free versions, these platforms do have some type of chat feature there to help you. And I just wanted to finish with encouraging, if email something you're trying to get into, I encourage you to sign up for other email lists just to see what people are communicating within the channel and to get new ideas. We'll send the deck over afterwards, but some of the brands that we follow include Beard Brand and Yeti, as well as some other ones that all have really unique content and a variety of tactics that they're using within the channel, as well as other resources that can be really helpful. Campaign Monitor, Litmus, Emma. If you're looking for campaign examples, there's a website, it's free, it's called Really Good Emails, that can be helpful. So we'll pause here and love to take any questions. I know we went over a lot of content, so happy to go over something in more detail, or if there's a specific question that comes to mind, I'm happy to answer that as well.
There we go. Thank you, Megan. That was really helpful, and some questions did come in. So the first one is, when we're talking about the metrics, what would you say is a good open and click rate percentage?
Yeah, that's a good question. So every industry is different. All the platforms that we talked about have benchmarks by industry, but just aggregated for open rate, I'd say above 15% is a really good open rate, or it means your program's healthy. On the click rate, as long as it's above 1%, it's showing that you're healthy. But I'd encourage you to look to whatever platform you're using for email and looking at their benchmarks and looking specifically to your industry, because there can be some nuances like between those different industries.
There was another question about when you're talking about getting your email into the promotions tab. Um, wondering the viewer was wondering what you meant by that. I'm wondering if you meant on like Gmail when there's the promotions category that it can go into. Is that what you were referencing there?
Yeah, so in like Yahoo as well as Gmail, there's usually a couple of different tabs, including like I think it's personal and then there's social and then there's promotion. So most email marketing campaigns end up in the promotion tab, which is good. People check it. Where you don't want to end up is in the spam folder. That usually is a place people don't go to go and check. So you'd be sending a campaign, doing a lot of work, and then nobody would end up seeing the content.
Great, thank you. Another one that came in from Peter. How important is having the email easily readable on mobile devices?
Yeah, so one thing that we're starting to see in the last few years that more and more web traffic as well as email traffic is on the mobile device. So we encourage our clients to design for mobile first and then the desktop secondly. Most of our clients, I'd say between 50 to 70% of opens happen on their mobile device, and that's pretty common across industries. So look at your metrics. The platforms will tell you what device people are opening on. The rule of thumb is that it'll probably be on a mobile, so design with that in mind.
Yeah, interesting change there, but definitely important to keep in mind, like you said. Um, what is a good platform to use for a business that does both B2B and B2C?
Yeah, so it depends what the scale is and depends what your goals are. For it could make sense to have both. So you'd want to send your communications that are B2C through your like Klaviyo or your MailChimp. And if you're working some type of leads or your kind of like sales side of the business, that you'd want in HubSpot, and those two can sync together, those platforms.
Great, good to know. Thank you. Another one, we're just keeping them coming rapid fire, but this is a good one that I am curious about also. What do you think about the use of emojis in the subject line? I know sometimes it can definitely increase the likelihood for a click. This viewer's opinion is that sometimes it can start to look a little cheesy with so many emails starting to come in, having those emojis in the subject line. What would you recommend?
I think the first thing is it comes back to what your brand guidelines are and who your brand is. So if emojis don't fit with who your brand is, don't use them. But with that being said, a lot of clients that I've seen test it or use it, they often see lift in their open rates. So it can be a good tactic if it's something that's on brand for you. And I think just testing things is always kind of good to know, like, does it help or does it not? And it can just take a couple of campaigns to know that answer.
Great, thank you. So another question, when thinking about coordinating your email campaigns with your social media posts and marketing in those channels, what is the best way to coordinate that? Do you want all messaging to come out around the same time, or do you want to try to spread out your messaging across different channels like that?
Yeah, so when kind of planning it, I kind of recommend going back to that planning for a quarter at a time or even a year at a time, and then flagging some of those big times when you want the content to be across channels. So maybe a good example would be your Black Friday sale. And it could depend on your business. So if the goal is to get as most revenue as possible, you might want to launch all the communications at the same time. So it's that consistent message across all channels. It could be another approach that I've seen is perhaps you want to reward people for being on your email list. And maybe the first day of a big sale, it's email subscribers only, that they get that opportunity and it's a reason to pay attention to your communications. And then the next day, everything goes kind of live and it's that integrated messaging. So I think it kind of depends back to what's your goal for the communications that you're doing, and yeah, I guess the bandwidth that your team has as well.
Great. That's a fun idea to give a little incentive to subscribers first. Fun little perks there. Um, so another question, when talking about list health and our email list, what would you recommend as, the best steps to take if you need to clean your list? Like if you have a list, but it's really not effective, or you are getting a lot of bounce backs, something like that.
Yeah, so if you haven't emailed in a really long time and you kind of think your email list isn't very good, it's probably not. So going to some type of email list cleanse service, and what they'll do is they'll flag all the email addresses that email that isn't no longer associated with a subscriber, as well as the ones that are spammy. They'll take them off so you're not emailing those names. So then you'll have some really more healthy lists. And then once you take that chunk that you think is better, I'd recommend sending in waves. So take maybe 10% and send it out and see if you get any spam or deliverability issues. And if it looks good, do another 10% wave and test again. And then you can move into some type of whole list send strategy. But doing something cautiously is going to help, because the email service provider is flagged by quantity. So if you do everything all at once, you're more likely to get yourself in trouble with your email provider.
Good to know. Thank you. This one is specific to the holidays, and kind of fits into that nurture type of email that you'd mentioned. Would you recommend that businesses send a specific message on holidays, wishing them a happy holiday, or would you recommend they keep it specific to sales and promotions, when they do have that content to deliver?
I think it, once again, kind of depends on your industry and kind of depends on what your brand voice is. That days like Black Friday and Cyber Monday are, if you're selling like business to consumer, consumers are pretty trained to be looking for promotion and like the best deals of the year. So you might miss out on an opportunity by just doing some type of non-transactional. But if you're more of like a service provider, like you're an accountant or something like that, it's just kind of a feel-good message, like thinking of you, happy Thanksgiving, thankful for your business. So I think it kind of depends on what you're hoping to get out of that period and what space your business plays in.
Great. Thank you. Really helpful. So that is the end of our questions right now. If anyone has any more burning questions, please type those in. And as we mentioned in the beginning, for other questions that you do have, and if you want to, think through your campaign strategy and your marketing strategy with the holidays coming up, you can always make an appointment with one of our consultants at the North Metro SBDC. I put that link in our chat, and you can also, it's just through our website, which is northmetrosbdc.com. So great time to get that going with the holidays coming right up. And Megan, are there any other pieces of advice you'd like to give the viewers today?
I think if you haven't started for planning for the holidays, I would start right away. That consumers are starting early if you are somebody that's selling some type of product, but it's still not too late. So yeah, I'm glad. Thanks everybody for the time. It's been great.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Megan. We really appreciate it. And again, thank you to the City of Westminster for partnering with us to make this possible, and for all the support they're offering right now to help small businesses through this time as well. So before I forget, we do have a handout in the sidebar that you can download. It's just some of the tips and takeaways as you're thinking about your strategy through this season, and we'll include that in the follow-up email with the slide deck and the recording in case you missed any of this as well. So thank you all so much for joining us, and we wish you a great afternoon.